Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Punatu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we have been studying about renunciation. What we have studied is if we are able to reach up to the level of renunciation, we will become highly successful people. Why are we successful? Because we become objective in life and we become highly blissful people. Why are you blissful? Because you don't have attachments and involvements. So when these two things are missing, attachment, involvement, all this kind of unnecessary mental activity is missing, there is no way you can not be happy. We never seem to get that it is our attachment and our involvement that causes us misery. We just don't get that. No matter how much we are told this is just an impossible thing. No, my work, I've got too much work pressure, I've got this, I've got that, my parents are being so mean, I've got toxic relationships, all sorts of exams, all sorts of reasons we give, not recognizing that there's only one reason something is able to affect. It is my attachment and involvement. So simple. So that's what he's trying to get at. So who will read the next paragraph? Doing something. What happened? Nobody's willing to read.
I can reach.
Hmm.
Almost every human being suffers from the nagging weakness of attachment. To rise above it, you need to strengthen your intellect with spiritual knowledge, a knowledge which exposes the absurdity of your personalized relation with the world, your immaturity. You begin to understand the futility of such relation. With knowledge seeping in, you gradually develop a sense of detachment towards the world. The dawn of detachment drives away the mist of worry and anxiety, leaving you in peace and bliss. So we suffer from attachment. To um, cure ourselves, we need to strengthen our intellect with the help of the scriptures, with spiritual knowledge. And as a result, we attain peace and bliss.
Sorry, I didn't catch the last thing. As a result,
As a result of strengthening our intellect with spiritual knowledge, we attain peace and bliss.
one step. As a result of getting spiritual knowledge, you develop detachment, which gives you peace and bliss. So, sounds so simple, right? Almost like a no-brainer. Like, why is this not clear? And yet somehow it's not. How much as the sages explained to us doesn't get through. We have a weakness of attachment. And because of that weakness, we create a personalized relationship with the world. What is our personalized relationship? This is my wife. This is my child. This is my parent. These are my students. These are my co-sadhaks. And the moment you make that relationship personal to yourself, The next obvious step is anybody has a sort of standard of how this is to be done. Since you are my mother, this is how you should behave. Since you are my father, this is how you should behave. Since you are my friend, this is how you should behave. We establish some kind of standards in our mind. This is all natural stuff that goes on. I mean, natural means this just happens with everybody. You're my student, so you have come to a Vedanta class of your own will and accord. Nobody pushed you here. Then you should behave like this. We all have some standard that comes to our mind because of that personalized relationship. Human beings do not live up to our standards. Nothing lives up to our standards. Even if I say, okay, this time I'm voting for Modi or I'm voting for Rahul, then I'm going to have a standard. I voted for you, so you have to behave in this way. You see, there's no cause and effect relationship here. Why is it so difficult to get that? Because you're my mother, because you're my father, because you're my spouse, because you're my sibling, where is the causal relationship here? If you wish to know how a person is going to behave, the causal relationship will stem from
Their vasanas.
very good, from their vasanas. What has it got to do with their relationship with me? But when I personalize it, I say, forget about your vasanas. This is how you should behave. How is that going to happen? You can't dump causality out of the window. Yes, Mahesh, you have a question?
Yeah, that's fine about detachment with or attachment with your fellow, close members. But is it okay to kind of give priority to them in a situation where there is a stranger and a relative maybe? And because the person is a relative, is it okay to give them the priority in terms of something that has to be done when both parties approach you? I mean, in the sense, suppose there's something, then you give a preference because, oh, this is my relative, so I ought to sort of, give that person. Is that also attachment, or is that?
Yes and no. I mean, suppose you have a child, you have to put your child through school and college. You don't have to put your neighbor's child through school and college. I'm being so impartial. I will put any child through school. No, no, you have to put your own child in school. Okay, so in some circumstances, of course. In some other circumstances, no. Suppose you are a bureaucrat and two tenders have come in front of you. One is your relation and one is not your relation. You can't go with your relation. You have to go with what is correct for the project. So it depends on the situation.
No, yeah, yeah, that's fine. That's with regard to obligatory duty to your child. That's okay. But I just thought, in the sense, where it's a little more fine line, where you don't have a clear cut, sort of demarcation between what is the exact choice to be made. I guess then that depends on your intellect, right? It could happen that you do give uh, someone the priority because they are related. It would depend on the situation and your intellect and how you interpret. Okay, thank you.
Yes, you'll have to follow your own conviction in that in that place. So every human being suffers from this attachment. And therefore, the personalized relationships that find causal relationships where none exist. People are not something because they are in some way related to us. They are the way they are because of their vasana. So, once you get that through your head, you will stop giving an unnecessary emphasis on the personal relationship, an unnecessary emphasis. Now, what is an unnecessary emphasis? An unnecessary emphasis means that you are predicting their behavior based on their relationship with you. He's my brother, so he will behave like Ram and Lakshman towards brothers. No, he won't. That living like that is a very high state, and so you have to check the vasana of that person. Is he capable of this thing? And if he's not capable of it, then what is this expectation? He's simply not capable. And most people, if you just think about it on a very sort of obvious way, will there be more spiritually developed people in this world or more not developed people? In this world, what do you think will be more? Noble souls?
Not developed.
Not developed. So if you say that 70, 80, 90% are not developed, that means of the people you know, hardly 10% will be somewhat developed. And that should be your expectation. They will not be sensitive. They will not be understanding. They will not be generally loving. They will love you as long as you cater to their needs. And they will dump you when you're no longer catering to their needs. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Get used to it because this is a fact of life. There is no mother, no father, no brother, no sister, no spouse, no child, nothing that works on a causal relationship of that relationship. It works on their vasanas. And when you start seeing it like that, you start seeing people as they are and not as I would like them to be. And the moment you're able to see people for what they are and not as I would like them to be, you find this whole world very funny. Just as you find the children's world very funny. And every children do all sorts of cute things, right? You know, oh, how cute. You find it funny. You say, oh my God, everybody's so horrible to me, I'm going to depression. If you feel everybody's so horrible to you and you're going into depression, it's a sign of
Attachment.
very good. It's a sign of
Involvement.
involvement. Correct. Everybody is so horrible to you, but you are just finding it all very funny. Is a sign of detachment. It's not a fake thing that you're doing. You genuinely think so. Just like when the child is mean to you, small child, you beat in the garden and that child says something rude and obnoxious to you. You say, so cute. क्या शैतान बच्चा है. See that it's not that you don't recognize that the child is like कुछ भी बोल सकता है. You recognize it, but you find it so cute. It's endearing actually. वो देखो कैसे बोलता है, कितना rude है. You've heard parents, grandparents talk about the children. कितना rude है. अरे कितना rude है. That's how you genuinely feel. How can you have a real reaction to a child? Or even pets in the family. Some pets are very friendly, some pets are very like nose up in the air. They won't talk to you. My brother-in-law has a dog. His name is Tigger. Now Tigger is very snobbish. He doesn't relate to people. And if you go to his house, he'll bark it. And everybody finds it very funny how he will simply not. He has to be with you for many days before he will settle down with you. Okay, even when their own children come to the house, he starts barking. But if does anyone say, oh, look at this Tigger, he's so horrible, he's barking at my own children. Even at my own children, when he barks, I'm still okay. And you should see Tigger. If you call Tigger and say, Tigger, come here, he will not even acknowledge that you've said something to him. He's so snobbish, it's not funny. Only time he made, I used to when I stay there, I do my morning study. So our Lord Falkland, he gets up quite late. He comes out of bed very late in the morning, like maybe 7:38. But I'm still at my desk. Then he'll come because he'll see that you are not bothered about him. He'll come and put his paws on you. He's like, it's so cute, right? Rest of the day, he's going to ignore you. He's going to be like, who are you? But in the morning, he'll come and put his paws on you. Then you have to pet him. Tigger has the personality of a cat, yes, largely so. So now when he behaves and all, he does all these mad things. Does anyone think badly of poor Tigger? They think, so cute Tigger is. So when that becomes our attitude towards everybody in this world, you know that you are in a state of renunciation. How difficult, how different this is from saying, oh, he has a car, he doesn't have a car. I mean, what does it have to do with renunciation? He lives in a big house, he lives in a small house. What does it got to do with renunciation? Renunciation is the attitude with which you see the world. You find this world futile and funny because of it. Like how you see Laurel and Hardy. It's not nonsense, and yet you find it so funny. So that attitude that you find it all complete nonsense and completely funny, that attitude is renunciation. Okay, so in renunciation, what is it that you have given up? What is gone? What have you given up?
Your personalized relation, your attachment.
Your attachment and your involvement, which has come out of your personalized relationship. This is what you've given. Now, when you say given up my attachment, you say, oh, my husband and I, we have decided to have different bedrooms because we want to live a detached life. Pagal log. This is not a detached life. Oh, he lives in Canada, I live in Australia. We're very detached. This is not a detached. Detachment is an attitude, not an action. Okay, all clear so far?
Yes.
What, everybody else went to sleep? Nobody is reacting?
Yes, yes. So busy taking it all in and just like thinking, oh God, it's so simple, and can't even say yes. Just getting the enormity of the simplicity.
Yes, so simple, no? Growth is so simple. It is non-growth which is complicated. Okay, so shall we continue? Who will read the next paragraph? Is there anyone who's new? I didn't check today. Whose iPhone, please? Can you put your name so I know whether there is a new person, in which case I have to, of course, be a little more careful. Who is iPhone? Do you know whether you've got an iPhone? If you've got an iPhone, please check how you are being seen on the screen. Unless, of course, you want to be an incognito, in which case I will not disturb that. Okay, who will read the next paragraph?
I'll read.
Please.
Two childhood friends happened to meet after a long lapse of time. One of them was a successful businessman, the other, a spiritual mendicant, sannyasi. Engrossed in conversation, they lost track of time and reached the bank of a river late in the evening. They had to cross over to the other side. The boatman refused to ferry them across as it was past his working hours. Their side of the river was infested with wild animals. The businessman offered the boatman a chunk of money. The latter yielded. They ferried across to the safer side, where the businessman's mansion lay. That night, after entertaining his guest with supper, the businessman inquired, "Tell me, friend, of what use is your stand of renunciation? If I had not possessed the money, both of us would have been devoured by wolves. Has not your way of life proved to be impractical? The sannyasi replied with these wise words: Dear friend, undoubtedly your money has helped us today. But was it its possession or its dispossession that really saved us? So the story basically tells that even to get anything out of the world, you have to let go of something. So holding on to the money would not have helped. When he let go of the money, that is when it helped.
Very good. Nice story, no? Eventually, what helps is not the possession, but the dispossession. Very good, Rishma. Who will read the next paragraph?
I
I
can
can
read
read it.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Shall I read it then? I think we both said. I will read
Okay.
it.
Yeah,
And
okay.
none of us said it.
Yeah, go ahead.
The problem with the renunciation is that it has a detestable front. People find it hard to accept the concept of detachment. The very thought of it sends a shiver down the spine. The idea of detachment stings you. Little do you realize that the sting of renunciation transports you to a higher plane, to permanent peace and bliss. It relieves you from all worry and anxiety associated with the world. The initial feel of renunciation acts like a wasp sting in a dream. The dreamer's pain is momentary, for it wakes him up. He is freed from all the trouble, worry, and anxiety pertaining to the dream world. Practicing detachment, therefore, may be initially painful, but it is in all gainful. It ushers you to great planes of happiness, leading you to the bliss of the Supreme Self. Uh, so, just as the story showed, or what I said that it was so simple, basically, it's telling us that though you think that detachment is something that is difficult to do and it will cause us to be miserable, it's contrary, that no matter what it feels like, the moment that you are actually detached, and you said it's an attitude, not an action, and the moment you develop that attitude, you will be happy and blissful.
This paragraph talks about what? It talks about why people don't take up to renunciation. So, why is it that they don't take up to renunciation?
Because initially it's difficult to do or let go.
It seems detestable. The sound of it sounds detestable. Now, y'all are in class and y'all are being trained, but go outside somewhere and use the word renunciation, detachment. People will start running for their lives. If you say, oh my God, if you say any youngster says, I want to take to Vedanta studies, his family or her family will say, my God, then you become a detached person, as if some horrible thing is going to happen to you by becoming a detached person. Why do they say that? They feel that you lose all joy, you lose all enthusiasm, you lose all fun in life. But the truth is just the opposite. The detached people are full of joy, full of enthusiasm. They're the ones enjoying life because they can enjoy every bit of it. But we don't take to it because it appears detestable. It sounds like, that if you talk about renunciation or detachment, it sounds like somebody's going to take something from you. And that's what is striking. Someone's going to take all my joy away. It's like telling a young child, one day you're going to be a teenager and then you won't want to play with this Barbie doll. And the child will get terrified, right? They'll say, what? You're going to take my Barbie doll away? How can you do that? But when the child is a teenager, they will not know where that Barbie doll is kept. Yeah, Mahesh.
yeah, I have two questions. One is straightforward. I think so. Detachment and renunciation can be used interchangeably.
Yeah.
Okay, and the second question is, I read this about a daughter and a child and a mother, and the mother had sort of been spiritually exposed, and she had become sort of had the same sort of love for everyone, in the sense, as we say, the love should be universal. And then her daughter said, this is not what I want. I want you to have a personal love for me. So I'm assuming she meant attachment to her daughter, to herself. Right? So is that a correct thing? That can that happen, that your children might expect another sort of relationship, or I mean, is that is our love to the close ones, the attachment that the child wants, rather than a universal detachment to us, or love to all? So is that child's firstly, is that how a universal love works? That's first question. And secondly, if it is that way, then is the child justified in asking a more personalized attention to herself?
It almost sounds like love is some kind of cake which we will cut in equal pieces and give everybody. That's not how an emotion works. It's not that because you love X, therefore your love for Y reduces. Knowledge or emotions do not decrease because they're spread to a lot more. So if the child is finding a lacuna in her parents' affection for her, there can be one of two reasons. One is that there is a lacuna. In under the guise, I know a lady like that. She's passed away, poor soul, but she was most, what should I say, unemotional, uncaring. She couldn't be bothered about people. But she always claimed that, why should you have all these relationships? You should have universal affection. Her her words were all about, how you should have universal affection and not have attachment and all of that. But her emotion was lacking. There was no heart there. Okay? So sometimes, under the guise of detachment, people are just heartless. In which case, there is a lacuna in their love, and the child is justified in recognizing so. But making a demand that you love me because you're my mother is very foolish. It is your attachment that makes you think so. And therefore, you will suffer from that. In the second case, that's really the second case. In both cases, this stands. You're with me so far? In the first case, there is a lacuna in what the parent is feeling. In the second case, there is no lacuna in what the parent is feeling. But the child is not able to understand that. Like Mahatma Gandhi had, I don't know how many children, quite a few actually. And one of them was very anti him because he said, oh, my father never loved me. He was busy loving all of India. But one of them, the others didn't have that point. So sometimes there is a lacuna on the part of the parent. And so therefore that feeling is justified, not that behavior on the parent, on the part of the child. In the second case, the person can love you totally, but you are not capable of accepting love. Then what can the person do? In so many women genuinely believe that their husbands don't love them when that guy is going crazy for them. Now, you are so, so what can anyone do under these conditions? Is that clear? Two separate conditions?
Yeah, it's clear. So if there are two children, a daughter and a daughter's friend, will the expression of love, the feeling of love, be different for besides the actions? Okay, the actions may be different. It's your daughter and you have to, but is the feeling also different in any way, or is it?
Not necessary. Not necessary to be different. When your friends, think about it in some kind of practical way. When your friends came over to your house, right? We were all kids, our friends came to our house, and we took liberties with our mother. We go out, we bring home whichever friend we happen to be playing with, right? When you come home, does your mother treat the other person any worse than she's treating you? For that, you say, "Oh, how did you treat my friend so well?" Do you say that? No, because her love can encompass both. She give both amras and whatever it is these parents used to give us then.
Okay. Right. The actions I was okay with, but the feeling was what I was wondering about. Actions
No
may be
problem.
same. Feelings are
Can be
also
exactly the same. Feeling can be exactly the same. Can be. It's not always so, but it can be.
okay. Thank you.
So people don't want renunciation because they feel that it sounds terrible. They don't really understand what it's talking about. Okay, so we just concluded the topic on how renunciation leads to bliss. Does anyone have any questions regarding this? So I'm assuming not. So now there are three primary motivations in a human being's life. One is we all want success. Two is we all want happiness. And three is we want growth as a human being. I mean, to be successful and to be happy is nothing great in this world because every single animal is successful and happy. The leopard is successful, the tiger is successful, the butterfly is successful. Whatever they are trying to do, they are successful at it, sometimes or more often than human beings are. So it's no big deal to be successful. And so what differentiates us is that it gives is our growth as a human being, our level of spiritual growth and development. So, what is the relationship between renunciation and our development? Is that once you're able to pull yourself up to the level of renunciation, you will become capable of meditation. To meditate before you've reached a level of renunciation is only asking for trouble. So, the next topic is how renunciation makes heralds meditation. So, Mahesh, I think you had said you will read, right? So you can read the first topic.
So, renunciation heralds meditation. The mental state of renunciation is an essential prerequisite for practicing concentration and meditation. You need to first free yourself from the mental bondage to the world. The mind is riddled with desires. The unfulfilled desires cause the mind to be agitated, disturbed. Such a mind remains enmeshed in the affairs of the world. It cannot rise to subtler realms of contemplation and meditation. You need a calm and composed mind to do that. And the way to achieve that state is through the reduction of desires. The three yogas, karma, action, bhakti, devotion, and jnana, knowledge, have been prescribed for time immemorial to eradicate desires. Karma yoga, the path of action, is a spiritual discipline directed to the body. Bhakti yoga, the path of devotion to the mind. And jnana yoga, the path of knowledge to the intellect. Thus must you intelligently proportion these disciplines to suit the constitution of your personality. You then gradually reduce the bulk of desires. Your mind is freed from agitation. It becomes calm. A calm mind alone can be directed to meditation. And through meditation, you attain supreme enlightenment. So, so it just says that our mind is normally full of desires. And with such a large quantity of desires, it is hard to contemplate and meditate. And you have to follow the three yogas in order to reduce the desires. Based on your personality, you can proportion them accordingly. And thereafter, when freed from desires, the mind becomes calm, and you can do meditation, which will lead you to enlightenment.
Very good. Except that you have to say you gradually reduce the bulk of desires. If you say all desires gone, then what are you going to be meditating for? So the bulk of desire, like, mess of it all. Like if you're gonna go down, first you have taken out all the big chunks and thrown it away. Now you're going to put Lysol and clean up this whole place. So there's no point using some Lysol or detergent and cleaning the ground when you've got when it's all full of all the muck. So same thing at the mental level. When it's full of all sorts of mess, to sit down and meditate is madness. But when this mess comes down and you get sorted out a little bit, then you can start meditating. How does it come down? When the desires have come down. How do the desires come down? Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga. I mean, this is just to summarize this for us. Okay. All right. Any questions, or we'll move on? All right. Who will read the next paragraph? What happened to all of
Shall I
you?
do?
Janshi, I have a question.
do?
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
regarding the last. This,
Okay.
it's related to a question Deepraj had asked about meditation being the process to reach meditation is the diagram of the three yogas and Uparati, Dhyana, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. Now, is that the recommended or the the ideal process? But there are other ways too, such as uh, just to give us example, it may not be extremely correct, but so if you take Sadhguru, he very openly admits that he has not read any of the scriptures, but they say he's very famous and he's world renowned. He's everywhere on social media. And that's not a criterion for. But what I meant
You're
was
trying to
that
establish a spiritual growth. None of these points establish that.
no, what I meant is that since he's not done the scriptures, can we say that all his claims are, not valid because he's not read the Gita? Can we do that? And can we like?
Of course not. Firstly, is that the recommended process? And there are other means? No, there is no other means, because you cannot violate causation. There is no other means. Now, if you take a person who claims that he hasn't read the scriptures, the definition of Jnana Yoga is?
The difference, the viveka of between permanent and impermanent. I forgot the.
So that is
Sanskrit.
defined as reading the scriptures. Causal relationships you must get correctly. So when you get your causal relationships correctly, there is no violation of this. It's not an option. It is this or nothing. It's my way or highway, actually. It means when it comes to causation, you cannot violate. You say, no, but that person didn't read the scriptures. No, what can I say? That's the scriptures were not part of the causation.
So
I'm
Jnana Yoga
not
is
making a claim on whether he is grown or not.
right.
Okay, I am not making a claim. I do not know the person. I cannot make any statement on that. All I'm saying is what is required for growth is the three yogas by which the desires reduce, and then you become capable of concentration, and then you become capable of meditation, and finally you realize the self. There's a causal relationship, cannot be violated.
Yeah, so Jnana Yoga need not be study of scriptures. Could be just asata viveka. Whatever the. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
But
I
to
mean, all
sharpen our
the scriptures are only supposed to help you get that viveka, right? That's the whole point of the scripture.
Okay. So you could have it without them. we could be evolved to a certain
Yeah,
extent.
we could have bhakti without singing any bhajans. These are not the causal relationships. These are just various different techniques. And you can dump any of the technique. You take the technique that works for you to achieve that end.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Somebody
But
else is saying something, right?
yes, but wouldn't it be extremely inefficient? It will be like reinventing the wheel. That's why the scriptures like boost it up so quickly. Like it's
Yes, you can, of course. Otherwise, what use would the scriptures have? Obviously, they are useful. Obviously, they're beneficial. But there's no rule that had you not read the Upanishads, you will never realize the self. There's no such rule.
okay. Thank
Maybe all that was in this lifetime, they have not done this. Maybe previous lifetime, some of the sadhanas were already completed. So they took over from there. This can also be a possibility.
Yes, but we need not go into the unknown that much. For every question, we need not go to Pichla Janma. We can answer it.
Not every, but just one
Yeah. As
explanation.
far as possible, keep all explanations within some known point, as far as possible. There are situations where you have to go to the unknown, but we keep those as low as possible. Okay, so who will read the next paragraph?
I'll read.
Go ahead.
Yes. The above traditional procedure has been scientifically designed. You cannot short circuit this procedure and plunge into meditation. The mind requires to be prepared by the practice of the yogas to be free from it, the bulk of desires. A practice that involves time, a procedure that may be slow but sure, but people lack the patience and perseverance. They look for immediate results. This human weakness has been widely exploited. Self-appointed spiritual leaders have been hawking physical exercises as yoga, also selling meditation indiscriminately to unprepared minds all over the world. The innocent masses have been led astray. Scores of pseudo spiritual courses are marketed everywhere. Some of these courses enjoy a large following because they lend an immediate peace, solace. The ignorant do not realize that their experience is temporary, transitory, and that they fall back into the state of sorrow and misery. These courses do not help you to grow spiritually. Here, what they are telling is what is the traditional way and what should be the way, and what down the line many spiritual leaders are doing. They are giving temporary solutions. Maybe the result of that is also temporary. But if you do not follow the proper way of meditation, all these become useless after some time. They may be for a certain period of time, they may give you some solace, some peace, some weakness. But if the root cause is not treated, then everything falls back into the place where they were.
Very good. So this is the traditional procedure. It has been scientifically designed. You cannot short circuit it. It can't be done. Why are you trying? There is this Tyagaraja had this song, Chakkani Raja Marga Mutlaka. There is a right royal way. Why, oh mind? Chakkani Raja, there's a royal way. Why, oh mind, are you going into the bylane?
You going into the
Bylanes. Why? Why do we go into the bylanes? There is a scientifically designed. Scientifically means there's a reason why this process is given. The logic behind it has been explained. There's a causality involved here which cannot be violated. Why are we trying something else? Why are we trying random stuff when you have the right royal way? Why try? Okay, try this first. If you find that it doesn't work, then you go do whatever else you find. So why not try the well-established way first?
The immediate result is required. Abhi chahiye. There is no patience.
There is no patience and there is no intellect to make projections. An intellect in us can make a projection. An intellect in us can think a little beyond tomorrow. The mind can only think today. I will put money in the bank and I will get my interest from today. No, you will get your first interest at least a month later. You have to wait. ना मैंने एफडी बनाया अभी तक मुझे कोई इंटरेस्ट नहीं मिला. How is that even possible? You have to wait for 1 month before you get some interest out of that money. Yeah, Komal?
Yes, ma'am. Just a comparison came with allopathic, homeopathic, and Ayurvedic system. Ayurvedic and homeopathic systems, they treat from the root, but they take a long time. But allopathic medicines, you just pop the pill and the result comes, and after that it reoccurs. So we can compare with this. It just came to the mind that these traditional practices are like Ayurveda and homeopathic, which takes a long time, but treated from the root. But this all other practices may be like allopathic medicines.
Okay, I cannot comment on that because I really don't know. I've seen allopathy do miracles. In fact, I'm alive today because allopathy saved my life. So I can never say anything against it.
No, I'm not against, but they do give some results, but not long lasting.
I'm still alive. So I think it's relatively long lasting. Not gone off as yet. So, no, but I do not know. I honestly don't know. I know this is a common statement that people make, but I have not investigated enough to know whether this is true or false. So, no comment. All right. Who will read the next paragraph? Any questions? Any other questions? We're good, right? Come on, hurry up. What are you all thinking so much? You're like thinking so much as if you've been asked whether you get married or not. It's just a paragraph to read.
Shall I read again?
Please.
The divine self is lost in spiritual ignorance. The mass of desires veils the self. You cannot recognize yourself through this mass. Just as you cannot see your reflection in a pond filled with moss, the green mantle covers it completely. There are two ways of selling your reflection in the pond. The simple, easy way is to plunge your fingers into the water and push the moss aside. The moss separates forthwith to give you a glimpse of the reflection in the clear water beneath. But before you can register the sight of the reflection below, the moss reunites. It reassumes its mantle, masking the reflection. This way of recognizing yourself is futile. The popular spiritual courses adopted by the masses is akin to pushing the moss to get a glimpse of the reflection. These practices lead you nowhere. Yeah, it's in continuation with the last paragraph, like the short-term courses where you are thinking the problems will go, it goes for some time, but again it comes back. Like they've given the example, if you want to see your reflection in the pond of water, that moss outside will not let you do that. But when you remove it a little bit, you can see, but again it reunites and covers it again. So these popular courses, short-term courses, doesn't work for a longer period of time.
Okay, thank you. Except that don't please say short-term courses because everything we are doing is a short-term course also. So don't say it's just short-term courses. So correct. So Ramatirtha gives this example. The example is of there's a pond covered with moss, right? So now you want to see the clean waters. So you can just push your hand inside and pull it aside and you see the clean water below. But that's no lasting solution. There's only one lasting solution, which is you put your hand in, you take out the moss of that thing, And slowly, the moss itself reduces. It's covered by whatever weeds, those reduce, and the clear water below is seen. That's the real way to go about it. Now, what happens? Suppose now you all go into meditation for a minute. Okay, just go into deep meditation for 1 minute. What will happen? You will experience a great deal of peace and beatitude. You feel wonderful. It's like plunging your hand into that water and pushing that moss aside a bit. Then what will happen after you feel wonderful? You will come back to where you are now. Rather than that, take out the moss slowly, throw it out of the river, out of that lake. And that moss then slowly thins out and the clear water becomes available, which is what we're trying to do. Get to remove the dirt. Don't push the dirt aside for a minute so that you can see the whole thing. Yeah, Deepak?
I'm assuming that in this state of meditation, this temporary thing that we do prematurely, is it gives us bliss because of an absence of thought. So it's categorically similar to deep sleep. Is that correct? Am I correct
That's
in making that?
That's right.
Okay.
And going a little fast through this bit because the whole next chapter is explaining these ideas. Now he's only just leading us in. So we don't really need to go into too much depth for this topic. The whole next chapter is explaining. So who will read the last paragraph of this chapter?
I'll read it.
Please.
The effective way of seeing your reflection is by removing the moss gradually. The moss is cleared little by little. It becomes thinner and thinner. Ironically, you gain no glimpse of the reflection yet. But with sustained efforts, the moss is rendered so thin that it separates for good. You see your reflection in the clear water below. Similarly, you need to clear the mass of desires in the lake of your mind. This is achieved through study and reflection on spiritual literature. As you gain more knowledge, the mantle of ignorance becomes thinner, the mass of desires reduces. Thus, by your determined, sustained efforts, the veil of ignorance splits to let you realize the divine self within. So I think just already went over what happens, and basically this is what it's saying is that you don't just push things away. It's not a quick solution. It's not a quick fix. You have to do it. You have to stick with it. You just don't sweep it under the carpet. All your desires are not going to go away. Yes, maybe they will temporarily, but you need to work at it and keep at it and remove them once and for all so that the clear water is now left for you. Once and for all, you learn the way, the correct.
Very good. So once all your desires are removed, you will see the bliss of the self. However, what happens is, and what leads us astray is, and that's what he's talking about, that when you start cleaning the river or start cleaning the lake, you don't immediately see anything. Suppose you start cleaning it, the moss is still, I mean, you can't see the clear, but if you just push it aside, you can see it. So that's how people get sidetracked. In one case, you're seeing a result, in the other, you're not seeing a result. But in one case, something is happening, and in the other case, nothing is happening. And this dichotomy is what throws us off the real path.
True, so true.
It's quite sad, really, because it's so innocent, right? I mean, in one case, suppose I give you food. In one case, that food that you were given fills your stomach. In the other case, you don't feel anything. You don't even feel like you've eaten. Then which one will you go for? will obviously go to the one that feels okay. But what you ate was all rubbish. But that little bit you got was just complete nutrition. So your body was being benefited by that little rather than this um, big, massive meal. How? I mean, you can feel sympathetic, right? Why would anyone not do that? To do something contrary to what your senses or your mind tell you, you require
Wrong intellect.
an intellect that can override, very good, can override what your senses or what your mind tells you. That is the kind of an intellect that Galileo has. Galileo looks up at the skies and the sun is rising and setting. We also see that. But his intellect is sharp enough to override it and say that though this is what I see or this is what I experience, I know that it is not so. Even if I meet a person, one person speaks to me very sweetly and nicely, the other one just puts me in my place. Who would I be with? I would be with the person who speaks to me nicely. But like a guru may tick you off when you meet him. But a thief who's trying to get something from you, a cheat who's trying to get something from you, will speak to you very sweetly. Obviously, right? Anybody will go with the sweet talking person. It's a very, very strange thing. That's how it is. So I hope this chapter is all clear. Renunciation doesn't mean giving up things, staying away from things. It doesn't require any kind of act or environment. It requires a growth to higher values. When we grow up, Arun, are you trying to raise
Yeah.
your hand to ask a
Yes,
question?
yes, Janaki ji, I
Okay,
have a
yeah.
question. So while we are saying that gradually the desires get dropped and it's a gradual process, so is it advisable that gradually one starts practicing meditation?
As the desires drop, yeah, yes.
So it's a parallel activity and not a sequential.
It is sequential. For the early stages, it's not parallel. For the latter stages, it is. Like when you're a sannyasi, I mean, not sannyasi as in okaro, but your level of desires have reduced. To the extent that they are substantially reduced, you can take up to meditation. So in the earlier stage, it'll have to be sequential. But in the latter stage, your karma bhakti jnana will continue, but meditation will also be added.
Yeah, because once all the desires get dropped, then there is no meditation required because you've realized.
Yeah.
So it has to happen at a stage when substantial desires get dropped. That's the point you're making. Okay, that's fair.
So, excuse me. So, renunciation is growth to higher values. When we grow up to higher values, what happens is we become very successful, we become very blissful, and our mind gets prepared for meditation. This is what this chapter was all about. Okay, so I guess that's it for today. Neeru, I can see your video is on. Do you have an announcement for us?
Yes, Janki ji, I think everybody on the group knows about the retreat coming up from 29th June to 14th of July. Some of us have already registered and donated also. I'd urge the others also to join and make the donations so that we are a house full for the whole thing.
Okay, great. Yes, it'd be nice to study the Upanishads together. So let's hope we can all put ourselves to do that.
Neeru, is there a is there a cutoff date you're giving for registration?
No cutoff date, because Rishihood will allow us to tell them even at the last minute, but we would prefer that we have the numbers well in advance so we can prepare better.
Yeah. As early as possible, because why
Yeah.
should we keep anything for the last minute? So, because, like suppose we're going somewhere, we have to hire a bus to go over there, then you will need to know numbers and stuff. So, as soon as possible would be good. But of course, somebody may have some difficulty and so can't do it to the last moment. So, be charitable, everybody. You do it as quick as you can so that those who have a genuine difficulty and cannot do it till the last minute can be accommodated. This is just little ways we have of service.
And those who can't come can even sponsor others who can and need the sponsorship, the scholarship for the cost.
Thank you, Neelu. That was going to be my next question, that just in case we are unable to come
Yeah.
and if required, it can be sponsored. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You did so last time also. It would be nice if you could do that. If you
More than
come,
happy, more than
it would be
happy. And I
best if you
actually am going
come.
to
But
make an effort. I'm not going to let that keep. मेरे घर में काम कर रहा है, सब कुछ टूटा हुआ है. I can't come. Welders, painters. I'm going to try and come, but definitely will sponsor. Okay.
that would be great. Okay.
Thank
Very good.
Yes, so that also the other side of it, if for whatever reason you feel that you'd like to come but you cannot come, then some sponsorships will